We are public now, but most swingers are not public. Your next door neighbor or your kid's teacher is more than likely a swinger. You would be shocked at the amount of people, nurses, doctors, teachers, police, firefighters, like so many people are swingers and no one in their life has any idea.
Yeah, it's an estimated 5% of the U.S. population engages in non-monogamy. So it's something like 10 million people in America are actively engaging in this lifestyle.
Yeah, that's a decent amount of people, right? Would you say it's more popular?
Yeah, and it's hard to say exactly what the catalyst is, but I would really say somewhere around COVID, you really started seeing more and more people open up about it. I know if we look at events, most of the people that we know that are event organizers and do event groups, they're reporting record numbers of attendees attending these events and things like that.
How would you say this is kind of viewed generally by society?
Badly. I think that the younger generation that is up and coming, early 20s, are definitely embracing non-monogamy. They don't like labels. They just want to be like fluid and free with their sexuality. But I think the general population I think the word swinger is looked down upon. And that, especially I see that if you go to any of our social media, go to my Instagram, like right now, it is insane the things that people are commenting. And these people are the people that in their bio have Bible verses and talk about love and loving one another. But in my comments, they're just ripping me apart for owning my sexuality and being open to this lifestyle.
I'm happily married, been married to my wife for 10 years. Like for me, this is not something that I would be interested in, but I like do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. Do what you want.
Yeah.
Why do you think people have a reaction to it like that instead of just kind of having a reaction to like, well, it's not my business?
I think it cuts against the grain of everything you've ever been taught, right? So even us from a young age, you're taught you're supposed to find one partner. You're supposed to grow up. You're supposed to get married. And then that one partner is supposed to fulfill all your needs and desires and wants. And if you ever have any fantasies or desires outside of that, then you're a sinner and you're bad and you're failing at your marriage. And the truth is, I think if we're all open with ourselves, we all have fantasies and desires. I don't know too many men that could honestly look at you in the face and say, I wouldn't like to have a threesome with two women, right? I think most people, when you sit down and you're honest with yourself, that's probably a fantasy you have. And so what we believe is if I can communicate to my partner that I have this fantasy and they trust me and we've developed this foundation of a relationship where we can go out and we can explore those fantasies together and it can be a positive experience for both of us, why not do that, right? And so we're doing that. And I think people see that and they just think it goes against everything they've ever been taught. So there must be something wrong with it. Even if they don't understand it, there's just something wrong with that.
Can you tell? Like, can you look at a couple walking past?
So
we've had several viral TikToks playing off of these thoughts.
Okay, first of all, an upside down pineapple is like the unofficial official swinger symbol. So if you see a pineapple and it's flipped upside down, either they're joking with you or they're actually swingers. That is the first thing. But we always joke, like, if the wife's real tan and has fake boobs and they have like a hot tub and they have hot friends that they hang out with all the time, they're typically swingers, stuff like that. But truth be told is, again, another misconception. When we're like normal, like if I'm running to Walmart or Target or whatever, I'm just going to Target and Walmart. I'm not in there looking for potential swingers. I'm just in there to get my groceries and get out of there and go home. But people think that when we're out in like real life that we are like, we got to find a couple today because we just really got to fuck somebody. People think that we're just out there looking for someone to have sex with. Or like if we go to like a school function, we're going to sleep with someone's husband because we're swingers. Truth be told, I don't want your husband. I might want you, but I definitely don't want your husband, and also we're not going to cross those lines. We look for swingers at swingers clubs. We look for swingers at swinger events.
Why a pineapple? That to me doesn't seem like a particularly attractive
Lacy will
fruit.
get mad at me if I get into all the
you're not
details.
allowed to do this. But hospitality, a pineapple is a symbol for hospitality. Flip it over. It
goes
swinger.
back. Yeah. So the pineapple is the symbol of hospitality because it used to be super expensive because you used to have to get on a sailboat and sail to somewhere in the Caribbean to get a pineapple and then pick it and then sail it back. So like back in like early America, only rich people had pineapples. And to share, like when people like guests came to your house, if you fed them pineapples, that was like you were being very, very hospitable because you were giving them something that's pricey, right? And so that's why swingers kind of have adopted this, that if I'm going to share my wife with you, this is probably the most valuable thing to me, right? Is my wife. And so if I'm willing to share her with you, that's a very hospitable thing for me to do.
Are there hot spots in the United States? Like, oh, that's a big swinger hotspot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Atlanta.
Florida.
Yeah, a lot of Florida.
the Villages. I don't know if you've heard about the Villages, but it's one of the largest
I have
swinger
heard about the
communities
Villages
in the country.
Yeah. Yeah, Florida, Atlanta's really big.
Texas, it seems like there's a lot of people from Texas.
It definitely seems like the South, for sure, it has, which is hilarious because of the Bible Belt and conservative.
And even if you look at the infrastructure, so you would think like New York City or somewhere like that would have a ton of clubs. And honestly, there's not as many as you would think. There are some, but not as many. You would think there'd be a bunch in a whole bustling community. But most of our friends that live up in the Northeast come down here to the South to party and come to events. So it is interesting that you would think in the conservative South that there would be less of that. It seems to be the most of it.
Yeah, because they're hiding.
Well, it's like the harder you repress something, the more it pops up somewhere else,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like that seems is this a uniquely American thing in any way?
No.
Is it fundamentally a sexual thing? Is it more sexual? Is it more emotional?
I would say for most people, when they enter this space, they are looking to fulfill sexual fantasies or desires. And that's kind of the reason they enter into this space. But what they find is they actually end up forming bonds and friendships. And many swingers have friends that they've been, even ourselves included, that they've been friends with for years and for decades. And, even when we first started swinging, we used to say, we're sexually open but emotionally monogamous, right? We're only going to form an emotional connection with each other. But over time, what ends up happening is you develop friendships with people and you care about your friends. And if they needed my help or if, a tragedy happened in their family, like we would be there to support them just the same way probably you would for your close friends. The difference with us is we may or may not have sex with them.
Does that complicate things in it?
It can. It can very much complicate things, yeah. I mean, for the most part, it's usually pretty good, but when you're sleeping with your friends, I mean, how can that not complicate things?
I'm a big numbers person. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's imagine there's 10 instances of swinging, and forgive me for the words, right? But you get the idea that I'm asking. So, like, how many out of every 10 that's going to get complicated?
For us, not many.
Yeah, I think it's hard to answer that because it depends. When couples first join the lifestyle and they're unexperienced, their first few experiences, they might have drama every time because they don't know their own rules, their own boundaries. They don't know what type of emotional reactions they're going to have to their experiences. But the longer you're in the lifestyle and the more you kind of figure it out, I think the less and less those kind of drama situations happen.